Improved FBI load, 158 grain lead semi wad cutter hollow point, and 357 Magnum cases. So these bullets were sent over to the channel by one of my Patreon supporters, Hillbilly Scholar. So thank you for sending those over. And I did a test with these particular bullets loaded at 38 special plus P velocities, and they did pretty well. But the bullet style and bullet construction is a little bit hard. So I didn't get quite as much hollow point expansion as what I wanted to see with that 38 special plus P load. So I decided to go up to some light Magnum. So using 357 Magnum cases and power pistol powder like I used before. So what we got going on here, 0 bullets, 158 grain lead semi-wad cutter hollow points, 7.5 grains of Alliant power pistol powder, CCI 550 Magnum primers, overall length 1.590. So I'm really curious if we juice up this velocity, if they'll do a lot better. So I'm going to use my 4-inch barrel Smith & Wesson 686 and my 2-inch barrel Taurus 605 to do this test and see how these things will do. So I'm going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy I get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic gel test. So I'm going to go into plain 10% clear ballistics gel to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. No denim in the way to clog a hollow point or anything like that. Then I'll move on to doing more of a real world simulation where I'm going to have 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, we're going to have a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard right here to represent hitting ribs or sternum. 16 more inches of clear ballistics, and then another 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard at the back of that 16-inch block. So clear ballistics is roughly a half representation of the density of flesh. So 3 inches and 16 inches is more like 1.5 and 8 inches in an actual flesh target. So we're really trying to simulate a 9.5-inch individual with ribs in there. So we'll do a plain clear ballistics best potential shot. Then we'll do a real world simulation shot. And then I am going to shoot at the steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up, we're going to run that load through the 4-inch barrel. And I was getting 979 feet per second through the 4-inch barrel with my 38 special plus P version of this. So let's see how much more we get over that 979 feet per second through our 4-inch barrel here. $11.52, $11.96, $11.61, $11.43, $11.57. So we definitely got a pretty good jump in velocity versus the 38 special plus P loading. A lot of smoke just from, you know, the bullet base getting a little bit hot and the lube burning there. So pretty significant jump. Now in our snub nose barrel, I was getting 908 feet per second on average. So let's see what we get in the little snub nose here. 992, 1042, 1066, 1046, 1026. So we're getting more velocity with this light 357 Magnum load out of this than what we were getting out of the warmly loaded 38 plus P out of the 4-inch barrel. And honestly, the recoil, even though there's some muzzle jump, it doesn't feel like a 357 Magnum. It doesn't feel like that at all. So pretty good. Let's hit our ballistics gel block and see how this load compares out of these 2 barrel lengths. All right, first up, our plain clear ballistics shot. No denim in the way to clog a hollow point. No rib simulation in the way to potentially slow down its potential for penetration. So let's see what we get with this load through the 4-inch barrel here. I moved that quite a bit. 2-inch barrel. So I don't know how that drifted out, but that drifted out. Do it one more time. We'll take a look. Yeah, that was a very interesting effect there. I've never seen anything quite like that before, where the bullet drifts up out of the gel block. But, you know, I know out of the 4-inch barrel, this hit really, really, really hard. And we have a good amount of energy dump and damage going on in there. Believe it or not, I hit in 2 different spots with our second shot there, but a little more energy dump with our 4-inch versus our 2-inch barrel, but not bad overall. And I'd say overall pretty good there with that 4-inch barrel. It does look like the bullet did roll back, but it looks like the penetration went right to 17 inches and it created a ton of damage there and then rolled back. Very nice. With our 2-inch barrel, we went to about 18.25 inches. And it looks like the bullet has expanded a little bit less, but overall not too bad. So let's put on our denim, put in our rib simulation, and see how these compare in our real world simulation. All right, our real world simulation, 4 layers of denim followed by 3 inches of clear ballistics. That represents our pectoral muscle, followed by a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard that represents hitting ribs or sternum. 16 more inches of clear ballistics, then another 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting back ribs. So let's see how this does out of our 4-inch barrel, real world simulation. Let me set that back up and hit it with the 2-inch barrel. All right, 2-inch barrel, real world simulation. Let's see how this does. Let's go take a look. All right, that is some very, very interesting performance. You know, it just seems like in the short barrel, I'm having a little bit of issues with stabilization, I think, because, you know, both times I took a shot here, I had bullets that really, really arced and moved in really random directions. Energy dump in the first 3 inches of both of these is pretty good. When we look at our rib simulation here, big difference. With our 4-inch barrel, that thing is expanding out really huge. With the 2-inch barrel, it looks like it's not really starting to expand that much yet. And we got a whole bunch of damage here with our 4-inch barrel. Our total track went to about 17.25 inches. So that's pretty good. We had some really good expansion there. Now with our 2-inch barrel, it did not hit this bullet and it did not hit this track here. So we're good on that account. It just curved down really, really close, about a 1/2 inch away from hitting this remainder of this track, but it didn't actually enter that track. And we punched through. This is cool looking. We punched through the back rib simulation there. That bullet is definitely fully expanded and poking out the back there. So that would indicate it probably would not pass through an attacker, but would go about as deep as possible. And what we got going on there with our penetration numbers, we went right to about 19.75 inches of penetration. So I'm going to say, you know, this seems like a really good load for the 4-inch barrels. It's easy to control and it shoots pretty well. But in the 2-inch barrel, it's a little bit of a handful as far as muzzle jump. The actual recoil isn't too bad, but the muzzle jump is kind of high with that. Did pretty good, but you know, it's just kind of average in a way for a 357 mag out of a snub nose. A little bit less recoil than a full power low for sure. But you know, it's kind of average performance in my opinion. As where when we look at it to the 4-inch barrel, it's actually a pretty good performance, because once you go to that heavier 4-inch barrel, the recoil is way less than a typical 357 Magnum. Yeah, we're getting a really good effect going on, a really good terminal ballistics. So yeah, I'm gonna say overall though, pretty good with you know, both of these barrel lengths. So let's pull these out of block. We'll take a close-up look at them, then I'll shoot our steel, see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through plain gel. Here's our 4-inch barrel and our 2-inch barrel. So the 4-inch barrel, that mushroomed out perfectly. I'm not sure if that could even get bigger than that before it starts peeling back. So I'm going to say that's probably about the right velocity for getting the maximum expansion out of a bullet like this. That looks really, really good overall. And we look at our 2-inch barrel. Yeah, this does look about like the 4-inch barrel through, you know, with the 38 plus P loading of it. So, but we got an improved performance with that 4-inch barrel. Now, when we look at the ones going through our denim and rib simulation here, about the same difference between them as going through the plain gel, where the 4-inch barrel is a bit bigger than the 2-inch barrel, but both of them actually look pretty good. Now, honestly, the 2-inch barrel here does look better expanded than what it did, you know, with the 2-inch barrel with the 38 plus P load, because in that one it wasn't that well expanded. So 4-inch barrel here for our denim and rib simulation versus the plain gel one. And we look at the plain gel 2-inch barrel versus the one with the rib simulation. So again, not a big difference between both of those, you know, going from the plain gel shot to, you know, the denim and MDF. But when we look at the test that I care about with the rib simulation and all of that, 4-inch barrel, 2-inch barrel, not a super huge amount better with the 4-inch, but a good amount bigger and more damage and all of that. And we can definitely see it from here how much more that flattened and mushroomed versus the 2-inch barrel. So I'm going to say out of the 4-inch barrel here, that looks really, really good. This looks okay, but I've seen better performance with 357 mag out of that. And sometimes when you go to short barrel loads, it doesn't do that well. And that's kind of what I'm going to consider these as short barrel loads. However, that being said, they did better in the 4-inch barrel. So it's not quite as good as a short barrel load, even though the power level is kind of a short barrel load power level. But, you know, that power level with these lead bullets is really perfect for a 4-inch barrel. So that's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, 14 yards from the target, so I just want to see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these, see how hard these are to control if I just get a front sight picture and then pop them off as fast as I think I can hit the target. So let's see how these do out of the 4-inch barrel. Those have a really smooth timing to them where it's like very predictable recoil. We have a little bit of muzzle jump. Feels kind of like, you know, at the power level they're at, a little bit greater recoil than 38 plus P, but definitely way less than 357 Magnum. A nice smooth feel to them where they just come back down on target naturally. So 2-inch barrel, let's see what this does. All right, so I've been having a problem with these primers here. This box of primers, this package of primers, I've had a whole bunch of light primer strikes with them, these CCI primers. And these are both Magnum revolvers, and they've both done it in quite a few of these tests. And it's doing it again. So yeah, hard primer, light strike, so I have to go hit it single action. You know, they have a good amount of muzzle jump, but they're not uncontrollable and they're not painful. You know, it's really hard to compare what this is like shooting. Kind of like shooting a subcompact 45 auto, something like that, where there's not a lot of speed to the velocity and you know, recoil, but there's a slow jump to it, but not painful. So really pleasant to shoot actually, except for the smoke. So let me back it up and see how these shoot from some more distance. All right, 75 yards from the target. This is mostly just for fun. I know a lot of people don't think this is practical and they don't like to see it because I'm doing self-defense load testing. But for me, it's practical because when you do a hand load, sometimes like 1/10 of a grain of powder can make a difference in how accurate they are. And when you go to some significant distance, you start to amplify some of the off accuracy a little bit. So that can kind of tell you stuff about the loads overall. So 4-inch barrel, 75 yards, just 225 feet away. See how these do. Case ejection with those is really good, you know, because they're not a true Magnum, so it's kind of to be expected. I did pull a couple of them. That's definitely me. They're pretty much hitting right where I'm aiming, though, because I'm aiming basically center, and that's about where the elevation is going. All right, not terrible. You know, some loads I can hit every round, every shot. That time, definitely not. Probably just me. I do think they are hitting just a little bit high from the point of aim. And when we go to the snub nose, it's probably going to hit a lot high because, you know, you get a little bit of bullet jump from the muzzle rising from a heavy bullet. So let me go single action, aim at the lower third of that target, and see where these are going. Can't tell where that went. Got 5 rounds left here. Keep going. So I did pretty bad with that. I really couldn't tell where they're going, you know, consistently going. And they're probably having an issue, and that's probably why we saw that weird issue in the ballistics gel where arcing up one time, the other time is arcing down. So I think we're probably just having a little bit of a stabilization issue with this load and the snub nose barrel. Because if I recall right, in with the 38 plus P load, it was really accurate. So I don't think it's the bullet. I think being pushed to this velocity out of such a short barrel, we're having a little bit of stabilization issues. That's just what I'm thinking right now. But looking at this through a 4-inch barrel, I'm going to say this is fantastic. So I would say, you know, 2-inch barrel with this load, no, for 2 reasons. One, that stabilization issue, and 2, you know, it's not, you know, it's got a lot of recoil. That's what I'm trying to say. A ton of recoil. It's kind of hard to shoot quickly with this snub nose barrel. So combining those 2 issues, you know, it's better to go to the 38 plus P load, even though there's a little bit less expansion, just because, you know, it's just better overall. It's more consistent. As where when we go to the 4-inch barrel, I'm going to say this is a little bit better than the 38 plus P load when we go to the 4-inch barrel, because we have enough, you know, firearm weight to soak up that recoil. The stabilization and accuracy of those rounds is pretty good, and we have a significant increase in, you know, expansion and performance. So yes on the 4-inch, no on the 2-inch, and I think these performed quite well. So thank you again to Hellbilly Scholar for sending these bullets. I had a lot of fun with these. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.